Let's talk to Tony in Seattle. Tony, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, thanks for all you're doing. You're leaving a positive legacy. Well, I have kind of an announcement, I guess. I'm a soldier, incident commander for hazmat and mass casualty in Washington State, EMT 15 years. About 4 months ago, I watched one of these DVDs on Police State, and I had a great realization that 3 years ago, I was in one of those trainings. And it was hard to assimilate that. But in Washington State, what they were doing was a mission Evergreen. And all the civilians were doing their jobs, the EMTs, the airport fire, all that kind of thing. We were doing something different. And we were to escort the top politicians from small industrial airports to shelters that we didn't know of. That wasn't the scary part. The scary part was I'm the hand-to-hand instructor. And when they're asking us to do role-playing on taking citizens off the street who are saying, I'm your uncle, I go to your church, I go to your wife's school, what are you doing to me? And we said, hell no, what this is, what is this about? And the other thing was we had several forces that were there. We didn't even know what the hell country they were from.
Yeah, let me stop you. I've been to many urban warfare drills where they're practicing putting citizens in camps and where the troops train with foreign troops with role players saying, I'm your father, I'm your uncle, we have rights, don't take my guns. And you're saying you were in one of those training drills.
And what I'm saying today is if you're an officer, if you're a fireman, if you're a security guard, be wary. There's going to be a point in time when you're going to have a pivotal moment when you're standing there in your uniform and you're going to have a deep realization. Please listen to me, people. Tell anyone you know that are in these categories of jobs. They're going to have a stark realization that they are part of the big deal. They're going to have a choice to make. Either lay down and go home or fight back or whatever they do. But don't give in to it.
But you're saying you weren't aware of what was going on at the time. It was later when you saw the big picture that you understood. But, I mean, were others questioning, why are we training?
No, I questioned it then.
Oh, good.
And what happened was there was 6 of us that were very specialized. I was a bodyguard for top-ranking military. That was my job. There's only 1,600 of us in all the services. My military card says indefinite. I cannot separate. Okay, I'm one of those. And when we came back, and I have a great relationship with the 06 colonel, I worked with him every day, and I said, sir, what the hell's going on? And I also said, we brought guys all the way from the eastern side of our state to do this exercise, and when any of them were questioning what was happening, they were put in their barracks and said, well, we don't need you anymore, this drill. And they sat there for 3 and 4 days on their phone.
You know what they were doing? They were finding out who will go along with the martial law and who won't. You know what? This is so powerful. This information is so important. We're going to come back and continue Overdrive briefly with you and finish up with you, because I was going to get your number and have you back on, but I've been there. I've seen the training. I want to give you the floor for about 5 minutes. When we come back, then we'll join the retransmission as it was going. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're live, ladies and gentlemen. It's 2:08 Central Standard Time and 35 seconds, the 24th day of January 2011. And if you weren't tuned in earlier, I've gone into Overdrive because Tony in Seattle was in the military as a bodyguard. They were doing drills, and we actually haven't. They're not secret, but they're never really been aired on television. Government training videos back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We've even used a few clips of them in our films, well, in an upcoming film, where they were training under nuclear attack to move the mayor, the county commissioners, others, local congress people who are in town, who aren't in Washington, into secret bunkers. And that's how the feds federalized them. Oh, the feds are here to help. But then I've been to countless, many, many urban warfare drills where they have foreign troops with Marines, Army, National Guard. They're doing gun confiscation. They've got hired role players screaming, I'm your uncle, I'm your dad, I'm your mom. Don't take me to the camp. I've got a right to own this gun. We've got that in Police State 2000. Video I shot. And I remember playing that in 99 in Police State 2000 on local access TV, and it going out on VHS to people and getting letters and calls saying, you hired that Coronado troop ship to land. You hired those warrior fighting vehicles. You hired those foreign troops. That's not real. And I remember Rick Linklater, the director, saw it, and I told him people didn't believe it was real. And he goes, well, I know people in California that saw it happen. He goes, this would take $20, $30 million to shoot one of these scenes. You would win an Academy Award for this. Of course it's real. And it was on the news. CNN said, oh, they're training for Macedonia. It was in the newspaper that it happened. My film had the news articles on, still not real. That was 12 years ago. Back when people were not acclimated by the media to accept troops on the streets and checkpoints and TSA. And so, yes, going back for over 15 years, they've been training the military to take your guns, to go door to door, to take you to FEMA camps. And you notice they didn't bring food or water in for 5 days. They wouldn't let folks walk out on the high and dry highways in New Orleans. They went to the richest areas, high and dry. The poor areas are down low generally in New Orleans. Multi-million-dollar homes, and went in and busted open gun safes and took people's guns while they were home and put them in handcuffs. I mean, this was to see if the military and police would do this. Now, you heard Tony, and I know his story's true because I'm even aware of Operation Evergreen. I'm aware of the drills they've run, NLE-09, all of them. And I've already been to drills like this. This stuff's all public now. Years ago, it was very secretive, and they'd lie to the local media for what it was for. But the number one thing it's there for is to find troops that'll do it. Those that don't, they can find them to barracks. Just as he said, they get sent off to Iraq. They get the big list of injections to be given as guinea pigs. They get DU duty to take care of, to clean the DU weapons, the firearms and cannons and guns that have been used, the howitzers that have been firing DU. Literally. You get sent overseas to die and to get an early death from cancer. Those that say yes get promoted up the chain, then get brought into InfraGard over local civilian spy forces. Just in the last 2 months, my father, who's a dentist, was approached by Homeland Security, not even knowing that he was my dad. One of his patients approached him and said, we want you to spy on people. He said, he didn't say anything. He said, think I ought to get involved? I said, no, don't do that. Don't get involved to find out what's going on. We already know. Don't get involved. Then he was telling Dr. King about it in the break room. And Dr. King went, yeah, they came to my house, separate people, a week ago. So just in my life, they're getting all the professionals to spy. You see the TSA ads going out, the TV news pieces, spy on your neighbors, nothing's safe, you can only trust Homeland Security. It's about more mistrust in each other and then only trusting our loving government who's busy robbing us blind. We know this is a classical takeover program happening, and now it's coming to a head. So, Tony, I want you to start over from the beginning. You've got the floor here for a few minutes. Where the drill was, what was happening, all the details you just covered, and then more. Break down your concern, how they could find folks that knew it was wrong. Break it down for us.
Okay. Well, first, the thing that we have to understand is there's a National Guard, okay, and many states have what's called a State Guard. And Washington State, through Gary Locke, 10 years ago or whenever, reinstigated the State Guard. The guys used to be old retirees just watching the museum. So they outfitted us. I was one of the people that are supposed to bring it up to strength, do the hand-to-hand, all the rifle, all the stuff that we have to do to get guys when we're hiring civilians, because this is a volunteer. You're still liable for UCMJ military law. You still get rank. And if you were prior service or currently serving, you can gain rank within.
So they're now federalizing the state guards, which we've confirmed. They have state guards from Alabama to Texas at local high school football games searching 3-year-olds with their Hello Kitty purses. We actually have photos of that in my police state film that we made in 2005, 911, Rise of the Police State. So, yes, I can confirm that as well. So they have regular Army, like my cousin, who they bring in to train the National Guard and the State Guard for martial law.
Right.
But please continue.
And, one of the things about them that we have to understand is some of the guys you're looking at in uniform are an accountant, never did basic, or a gas station worker or something. And I don't have anything against that. I like people, serving for the good. But we're getting right back into that thing of, do you want some guy who's always wanted to pull a trigger or beat someone over the head who doesn't really have any military training or...
He's not fighting real enemies. He's been trained to fight his new enemy, the American people. Let's get back to this drill, shepherding the politicians out. And that's very important.
So what they were doing was all the civilian workers, whether it be EMT, a doctor, hospital facility, or whatever, were doing moulage scenarios like there's a plane down, there's a fire over here, there's an outbreak of something there. Meanwhile, us and our little group were going back and forth, hand-carrying special people of status to bunkers that we didn't even know about. And when we had gotten back, I asked the colonel about that, and he kind of had a slight eye toward me, like, why are you really, asking? But being one of the senior NCOs and in charge of half the platoon, I need to know what's going on. And then when we went back out the next day, the second day, they started doing these moulage scenarios of taking over school kids, colleges, people out of their truck driving down the street, searching and doing all this. But I wasn't training those people. And what I noticed was the civilians, the role players, they're not real civilians, were saying things like, why, I know you from church. Why are you doing this? Or, I'm a good guy. I don't have anything here. Why are you, arresting me? I work with your wife. Why are you doing? I'm an American. They're gearing these people up to just dissolve that
bond,
commonality, knowing that that's wrong.
And that's what the 9,000 locations with telescreens saying don't trust your neighbor are. They're really gearing up. They actually could drop the hammer now. We're entering, years ago I said, look, it could take decades. Now we're here.
No.
Absolutely. So they're training them to take people out of cars, load them on Army trucks.
Yep. And the other thing is their structure is this: locate them, obtain them, bring them to the quarantine area, and then they go to the docks where the trains are.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know, and on top of this came out in Model States Health Emergency Powers Act. They'll use any excuse to drill, trying to get local police and firemen to round up people for forced inoculation. The problem was they wanted to shoot them up with smallpox in 2002, so they said no, so they couldn't even do it. Now they've told them, okay, you don't have to take it, but you're going to make everybody else take it. And now they have the clergy response teams. We got the internal documents 3 years before it was mainstream news. People couldn't believe it, training the clergy to tell their flocks to go to the FEMA camps, to turn over their firearms. It's of the Lord, Romans 13. We've only got about 2 minutes left in this segment. Finish up with the military that said no, what happened to them?
And we're talking about very gifted soldiers here. The backbone of this unit, probably 8 of us, 4 from the other side of the state and 4 of us from here.
You're training the local civilian goon squad.
Right. And so we went to the logistics area, with all the big screens, the big thing you see on TV. And we went in to talk to the bird colonel who's exercising this mission and said, what is going on? What are we doing? And we were literally told to stand by and go to the barracks, and they'll have a mission for us shortly, which they never had anything after that. We went to the colonel after that, who I work personally for, and watch him, bodyguard him.
I understand. What happened? Tell us.
They took my ID away and said, you're not in the Washington State Guard anymore. Thank you for your service.
Yep. And again, they're looking, it's a drill, just like with TSA. They go, is the radiation dangerous? Is this violating rights? Boom, you're out. They're finding the dumbest. That's why they won't hire cops under over 100 IQ now. And we got a minute left. Any other tidbits?
Got to tell you this real important. Okay, now let me tell you this. They retired me early, okay? And so then I went into the voc rehab program where you get trained for a new position, okay? And one of my colleagues that I went through the 3 years of the school with that was an airman who was physically at NORAD who was told to stand down. And I tried to get that to your producers, but here's a great kid, and I've known him for 4 years, and he's a hell of a good airman, 4-point student.
Yeah, what happened?
And what they do is the guys that they told to stand down during 9/11 were obviously, a miss. They're like, hell no, forget it. Why aren't we doing anything? And you got top brass in there from all forces. So, they're having to stay, in line. And as soon as that event was over, within days, they basically gave anybody that gave a little inkling of decisiveness about that, and they exited these airmen and soldiers out on mental anxieties to be retrained.
Oh, yeah, they always did. That happened in World War II. If you complained about faulty parts in your plane, you were given a Section 8 mental illness situation. We're going to get your name and number. I'd like to talk to you again. You ought to write an article for us under a pen name, and we'd publish it at Info.
Disaster upon disaster, hitting harder